You may know that the axial skeleton is about 80 bones, 80 odd bones in the adult human. This is a male skeleton here. We've got the skull and the little hyoid bone in the front of the neck. We've got the cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral vertebrae, tailbone, the coccyx, as well as the sternum and the ribs. So this evolutionarily ancient fish body here, right? Protecting the brain and spinal cord as we move through the sea. And the joints reflect that stability. So the joints are going to be mostly synarthrotic, meaning no movement, or amphiarthrotic, little bit of movement. And we contrast that with the appendicular skeleton. We've got the shoulder girdle and the upper limb, and the pelvic girdle and the lower limb. And those are going to contain about, about 126 bones in the appendicular skeleton of the average adult. And those joints are going to be mostly synovial, mostly diarthrotic, meaning full movement. So again, there's exceptions. There's some exceptions if I look at the skeleton over here. As I said, most of the joints here are amphiarthrotic or synarthrotic, but the one exception would be the facet joints, the little overlapping processes of the vertebrae. And exceptions to the mobility in the appendicular skeleton, the lower limb is going to be a little more stable than the upper limb. And so we're going to have more, we're going to have a few synarthrotic joints here in the leg. Or I wouldn't say amphiarthrotic, because there's some movement, but they want to favor, you don't want those tibia and fibula moving around a lot like you would the radius and ulna. You know, the radius pivots over the ulna, and the tibia and fibula are not like that. They want to stay pretty strong and stabilize the leg as more of one unit instead of, having the mobility that we have in the upper limb. So I thought that's interesting. So if you want to stand for a moment and just feel your axis push against the ground and lift your head upright and feel your spine lengthening. And notice that the SI joints, the sacroiliac joints, notice that space where your appendicular skeleton and pelvis, right, the ilium, meets the sacrum of the axial skeleton. So one of the most interesting things that I find about this joint is that part of it really reflects the general truth about the appendicular skeleton. It's a synovial joint, and it has shiny hyalid cartilage. It's nice and smooth. And another part of the joint is actually more fibrotic and rough surfaced, and wants to, almost like it wants to be more stable. So originally this joint was actually thought to be amphiarthrotic, and now it's classified as diarthrotic. When in truth, how it is really, how stable or mobile it is, and how much fluid it has, and ability to move is really depending on your lifestyle and your genes. It tends to fuse earlier in males, especially if you're picking up a lot of heavy weights and bearing that weight and having that weight in addition to the weight of your upper body coming down into the pelvis and going down the legs. So just some interesting thoughts for the day. The axial skeleton, again, a little more ancient than the appendicular skeleton, and it evolved kind of as this bridge between the front of the body, the eyes and the mouth, and the tail at the other end, whereas the appendages evolved for locomotion and movement. But in humans, again, we put this part of our appendicular skeleton, half of our appendicular skeleton, we stood upright on, and so it's actually part of our axis as an organism, even though it's appendicular skeleton. So I hope that's interesting for you.